So, the first storyteller, I'm going to bring him up now. It is Jim Lipson, my friend from Adult Ed that I worked with forever. Give him a hand as he walks up. So, I want to say Jim's story is about intentions and realizations. And welcome, Jim.
All right, thank you, Laura. All right, Sadie, don't start yet. 20 years, this thing is almost old enough to drink. So, and Laura was right when she said it was a very popular subject. I got on right at the beginning, and then I think, are you sure you want to do this, Jim? We have a lot of other people. So let's just set the bar low, and then I don't think anyone will be disappointed. All right, now we can start. So I thought I'd start out with an icebreaker. Laura and I used to work in Adult Ed. We did a lot of workshops together. And an icebreaker was kind of a thing that involves other people. So I thought, well, it seems like other people kind of got involved in the manifestation of my story tonight with my tie. So we put out a Facebook thing. Laura put out this thing, and I'm dressed in a tie and a suit. It's my stepdaughter's wedding. And I think I got more feedback in the day that we posted this. Like, gee, well, I'd like to hear the story how you got the tie. I've known Jim for 40 years. I've never seen him wear a tie. So I thought I would wear the tie. It's a Jerry Garcia tie. And yeah. And so that was just kind of a way that you all got to manifest something in the show tonight, because I wasn't planning to wear the tie, but there it was. So that's my little ice-breaking manifestation involving everybody else. That's as audience participation as it will get tonight. So, all right, so I've been manifesting for a long time. I mean, just the fact that I was born was, it's kind of a deal. My parents, they decided to give it one more shot after having two boys. And, I grew up in a household in the 50s and the 60s where if you watch television, married couples didn't really sleep in the same bed. You ever notice that? Can you imagine Ozzie and Harriet having sex together? Well, I was kind of like that with my parents. My parents, I thought my mom was like Donna Reed, but there I was, I manifested, and I was conceived. Yay for my parents. Give it one more shot. So that was my first manifestation. I think my next real manifestation, I was a big Superman freak, even as the littlest kid. I somehow manifested being able to not only get a Superman costume, but getting my parents to let me wear it under my clothes to school one day. Me and my best friend David, we lived next door to each other. Our birthdays were a day apart, and we both had the Superman thing, and we shared this costume. So manifesting Superman in like first grade, that was a big deal. Third grade was my next big manifestation. I went to a school in the suburbs in Long Island and the South Shore. And even as a forward-thinking school as I thought it was at the time, third grade, we had a smart class, and we had, I'll just say what people said, it was the dumb class. Not as politically incorrect as you can get. And I was in that other class in second grade. And in third grade, we had the same teachers, the same kids, and somehow I manifested to the other class. And it changed my life. And everybody that was in that third grade class remembers Betty Levinson and what it was like being in that class. It was amazing. So I've been manifesting for a while. One of my great manifestations was graduating high school. The last week of high school, I was taking a creative writing class. I had to turn in about a 5,000-word short story I'd been working on for a while. And on the Monday or the Tuesday before the end of the session, where was I? I was down at the ball field down the street where the elementary school was, where I lived. I lived half my life down there. And I was standing around third base, and there was a guy hitting flies out to the outfield, and he hit a line drive. Whoa. And it flipped me up and over, and I was in the hospital. I had internal bleeding in my eye. I didn't have to do a bit of work. I got out of the hospital the day before graduation. I was able to go to school one day, got to get my yearbook signed by a bunch of people. And I got to graduate high school. Well, that's a big deal. And very timely. So there you go. So manifestations don't always happen the way we think they're going to happen, but sometimes it just happens. Some of my other greatest hits in manifestation-wise, after high school was, you know, people talk about manifesting. Well, why don't you just manifest some money? And you know, why don't you just manifest the lottery? It's a work in progress. And but one time I had to. I was living in a place and I had to pay rent, and we called this manifestation. Somebody in the group called it a dent for the rent. And I didn't know how I was going to pay my rent. And then at one point, I was driving down Speedway one night. I didn't know what I was doing. A guy came out of nowhere, slammed into me, and 2 days later, he put like, you know, $500 in my hand and said, "We're not going through insurance. Here's this money," and I was able to pay my rent. So, desperation is a really good motivator for manifesting. The other thing that's a really good motivator, I don't know if it's a motivator, but it's a factor, and I don't want to get all yoga on you here, though I do teach yoga classes, and I was told I'm allowed to say that. If you want some private yoga, talk to me after. All right, well now I just completely lost my thread.
That's because he said private yoga.
Intention. So one time I needed a roommate for a place I was living in. I was going to a church up at St. Francis, the Oovy Groovy St. Francis in the foothills back in the day. And they had a little time where you could say, "Oh, come on out and ask for, you know, at the beginning, you know, if you want to ask for, you know, what you need and the congregational vibe, its energy." And I really needed a housemate, otherwise I was going to maybe have to move because I couldn't pay the rent. And I got up and I stood up and I said, "I really need a housemate, otherwise I'm going to have to move." And I got this really nice place. And that was on Sunday, and on Monday a guy called me up, and on Tuesday he was giving me money, and he was moving in. And that was my roommate, Chris the professional clown, who lived with me for a couple of years, Chris the clown. So desperation is an important thing. Desperation and intention. So along those same lines, one of the great manifestations of my life was my ability to manifest rides while I was hitchhiking. So hitchhiking isn't something we really do these days, but back in the 70s, it was what we used to call reliable transportation. And very inexpensive and cheap reliable transportation. And the idea of just manifesting a ride was something that I got very good at. In fact, I got so good at it that one time I was on an interstate somewhere in the South, and you know, when you hitchhike and you go to you're at a place where there are other people hitchhiking, the etiquette, and there's an etiquette, you walk down past that person because that person gets first crack at the ride. And that's just the way it is. And I got to this place and this guy was all kind of like, you know, I saw him, I said, "Hello, how's it going?" "Oh man, I've been here like for 6 hours, man. I'm never gonna get a ride." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I have to get this guy a ride." And I actually offered, I said, "Why don't you let me stand here and I'll get you a ride?" And he looked at me like, "You gotta be kidding. You're gonna get a ride and then you're gonna jump in it." So I went into this little rest stop, I got something to eat, I came back, and I was thinking, I gotta manifest this guy a ride or I'm never gonna get out of here. And we went, I came back out and he was gone. And there I was the first guy there and I got my ride within about 10 minutes. So there you go. So that's kind of like some of the greatest hits, and it's like, well, how does this happen? Is it just thinking good thoughts? Is it the power of positive thinking? Norman Vincent Peale, if anybody remembers him. Or is it just, you know, the accumulated, 2,000 years of karmic accumulation of lifetimes, and everything is already laid out for us? And it's like, I don't know. Maybe it's all those things. But I'm going to share two, how are we doing on time? Because I'm seeing the two thing there, but a couple of manifestations. One that was really big was when I moved out here to Tucson and I was working for Domino's Pizza, and it was a great job for a little while, and then I grew to hate it with a passion. And just as I was turning 30 years old, I was out on a run, taking a couple of pizzas out to Christopher City, which is like a student housing ghetto that used to be way out on Columbus. And I got lost. I got lost out here. I didn't look at the map. And I'm just about to turn 30 years old. I'm working for Domino's Pizza. I'm completely lost in Christopher City, and I'm starting to lose my mind. And I'm running around, and I'm going crazy. And I finally, it took me an hour to deliver these 2 pizzas, and I'm riding back, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm turning 30 years old. I moved out here to Arizona. This is not how I wanted my life to be. And I wanted to freelance write, and I was working in social services back east, and I got back to Domino's and I started ranting and raving. It's like, what am I doing? I gotta get out of here. And they said, punch out, Jim. Go home. And I went home and I didn't come back for about a week. And within a week's time, I got hired by the Tucson Urban League to work like what my mom would call a real job.
Yeah.
I got asked to write a music column by the Tucson Weekly, which was sort of like my dream thing. I'd done a couple of freelance pieces for them. And I started going out with a girl who I sort of liked ever since I first moved to town. And all these things happened like boom, boom, boom. And it completely changed my life. And so, you know, manifestation is something that we all can do. And it's intention, it's desperation, it's luck, it's karma, it's all those things. And it's just sort of being open to it that makes it happen. So, if you're wondering what I'm working on now, I've been working on this thing called the election. You're welcome.